I think what was most shocking to Andy's parents was the kind of reflexive approach by the Santa Rosa Police Department and the Sheriff's Department to immediately try to justify the shooting. The first thing they did right off the bat was call a press conference like today and try to convince you folks, as well as the public, that the shooting was justified by trying to compare the toy that Andy had with him and a real AK-47. What was apparent to all of us, okay, was that the city of Santa Rosa Police Department, as well as the Sheriff's Department, are uncritically accepting the version of Eric Jailhouse. Okay? Deputy Jailhouse told them that he feared for his life, and that he shot, believing that Andy was armed. And to try to instill that in all of you and in the public's mind, they pulled out a real gun. Okay? What they didn't tell you was that there was a gentleman who drove by Andy seconds before the police officers shot, literally seconds. And he noticed two things. He noticed that the boy walking along the sidewalk was just that, a boy, unequivocally, okay? Two, he concluded that the gun was a toy. And I asked him, I said, well, how could you tell? He says, well, it was a toy. He says the way he was holding it, the way he was swinging it, clearly, okay, to the untrained eye, a toy, okay? What we do know, okay, from a group of people that were traveling in a Nissan behind the patrol car, okay, is that from the stop sign, the Sheriff's Department deputies accelerated towards Andy, got to about 30 to 35 feet from him, called out a command, and simultaneously bailed out. And the passenger deputy, Mr. Jailhouse, immediately began to shoot, okay? The witness statements are anything from 2 to 3 seconds. Now again, the Sheriff's Department and the City of Santa Barbara Police Department are saying, well, it's 10 seconds, it's a long time, suggesting that they had the opportunity to evaluate things and really get a sense of this danger, okay? That's not true. It's just simply not true. They yelled out a command, 3 seconds at the most, they were shooting. And I say they, it was actually Mr. Jailhouse. What the autopsy shows, and we've provided you a copy of that, is that Andy suffered 7 gunshot wounds. Doesn't mean he was shot 7 times. It means he suffered 7 wounds. He had, for example, wounds in his arms and hands. That's, you know, a bullet could have gone through his arm into his body. But what we do know, unequivocally, is that the first shot that hit Andy dropped him. Again, Mr. Mondragon, the gentleman in the vehicle ahead of the patrol car, he's watching this through his rear view mirror. He hears the command. 2, 3 seconds later, there's a shooting, and he sees Andy fall immediately, okay? That first bullet, as Andy was walking along the sidewalk, he turns. The bullet hits him right above the nipple. The trajectory is front to back, right to left. It went through his heart. It killed him. He fell to the ground. As he was falling, the officer continued to shoot. Andy has 2 gunshot wounds in his lower buttocks area. The trajectory of the bullets are from the lower part of his body up into his torso. Again, you could only get those gunshot wounds if you're shot in a position that is on a horizontal plane. What we do know too is that Jailhouse basically unloaded in a super reckless way. I mean, to say it's reckless doesn't even come close. We've got, for example, on one of the buildings across the way, across the vacant lot, we've got gunshots. I think there's one about 8 to 9 feet above the ground. There was no regard for, certainly Andy's life, there was no regard for public safety. He literally was unloading his gun in a public place and shooting in an uncontrolled way. We filed the lawsuit, as Rodrigo and Suge would tell you, because we want an uncritical and honest investigation. And we believe that the only way we're going to get an honest investigation, an uncritical investigation, is if we do it ourselves. And that's what we're going to do, okay? As soon as we get the opportunity to, we will take the deposition of Mr. Jailhouse. We will ask him the hard questions that we would hope the police department, the sheriff's department, and maybe even the FBI would ask, okay? We will ask him, what the hell were you thinking, okay? This is a 13-year-old boy, okay? He is 5'4". He is 140 pounds. There should be no doubt in anybody's mind that the person he was approaching, that the kid he called out a command to, was just that, a kid. And we're going to ask him this question too. What did you expect him to do when you called out, if not turn around and look at you? Okay? He can't use his own bad tactics to try to justify a shooting. If there really was an armed person on that street, you don't drive up to him, rush him, and surprise him. What Andy did was what anybody who has had no experience with police, and I want to emphasize that, okay? Andy was a 13-year-old kid who loved basketball, okay? Who loved going out into the rural area and working on the farm, okay? Andy was a kid whose friends and teachers truly thought he was charismatic, okay? Truly thought that he was a great, kind boy. Andy was just that, a kid. He shouldn't have been shot, and we're going to prove through our investigation, through our lawsuit, that the shooting of Andy Lopez was absolutely and unequivocally unjustified.